It began as the vision of one man to design and build the finest automobile in the world. An automobile that would stir the passions of everyone who saw it, everyone who drove it, everyone who would dream of it.
Hello, I'm David Conaway. I'm standing here with some of the most exciting, exotic automobiles in the world. To own any one of these would be a thrill of a lifetime. When you drive a Lamborghini, everyone who sees you is instantly a friend. They wave, they ask questions, they just want to get close to the car. Let's face it, Lamborghinis draw crowds. Even when the engine's just idling, the sound will make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. On the open road at, say, 180 miles per hour, that sound is a symphony of raw horsepower. And for the price of 6 digits, you can have a Lamborghini in your garage. Don't have the price of admission? Well, to be honest, very few people do. Hey, when I was a kid, I had a poster of a Countach hanging on my wall. I thought it was the coolest car in the world. I still do. Maybe you have that same poster hanging on your wall. Today, whether you're a Lamborghini owner or just dream of owning one like I did, you've got the price of admission. You're going to get behind the wheel of one of the hottest Lamborghinis on the planet as it goes through its paces on the track. You're going to get a behind-the-scenes look at one of the most exclusive gathering of Lamborghinis that has ever taken place. You're also going to get a chance to see a few friends of mine who stopped in to check out these cars behind me. Who would have thought all of this would have happened in the early 1960s just because of a bad clutch on a Ferrari?
The story between Ferruccio Lamborghini and Enzo Ferrari is that one day Ferruccio Lamborghini brought his car to service in Maranello, and occasionally he met Enzo Ferrari. And Ferruccio Lamborghini was complaining about the clutch of his Ferrari. And you know, talking, apparently Enzo Ferrari told to Ferruccio Lamborghini, you cannot complain with my cars because you are a tractor driver, and the tractor driver cannot complain driving a Ferrari or complaining with the clutch. So Ferruccio was quite upset, and the legend say that he told him, well, I will show you how to make sport cars and how to make clutch operating. This is the story that Ferruccio personally, I heard from Ferruccio many times. If it's true or not, nobody knows, but this is the story.
Ferruccio Lamborghini was born in 1916 outside of Bologna, Italy. His father was a farmer, and it wasn't long before a young Ferruccio developed an interest in mechanics by working on his father's tractor. As a young man, he attended a technical school in Bologna, and during World War II, he served in the Italian Army's transportation department. Ferruccio's mechanical skills were so strong that he even served as a mechanic for the British Army as a prisoner during the later stages of the war. After the war ended, Ferruccio returned to Bologna and began turning war surplus materials into tractors. He began this business in a small garage, but by 1949, he was building tractors from scratch in his Lamborghini Tratus factory. His tractor soon developed a reputation for being the best manufactured in Italy, and by the early 1960s, Ferruccio Lamborghini was one of Italy's most prominent industrialists. Ferruccio's success afforded him the best cars available, but after his bad experience with the Ferrari clutch, he formed Automobili Lamborghini in early 1963. Ferruccio was born under the sign of Taurus, and he picked the bull as the symbol of his new automobile company. He immediately began construction of a factory for his new business in Sant'Agata Bolognese, and 8 months later, it was completed.
The ability for Ferruccio to put together this from nothing, this group of people who were totally dedicated in a totally different time that is hard for us to relate to produce the ultimate car. In the 60s, it was a whole new world.
Lamborghini's first effort, the 350 GTV prototype, was debuted to the public at the Turin Auto Show in 1963. The first production models were completed in 1964, which were followed by the 400 GT and the 400 GT 2+2. These first cars showed that Lamborghini was ready to compete with the greatest automobiles in the world. In 1966, a prototype Lamborghini wowed the crowds at auto shows. It was low-slung, aerodynamic, and was influenced by Formula One racing cars of the era, yet it was designed to be a street-legal automobile. Orders poured in from all over the world, and the legacy of the Mura was born. In 1967, 111 Muras were manufactured, and the Lamborghini marque became associated with supercars and road-ready race cars. The Mura had a transverse-mounted 4-liter V12 and was capable of speeds close to 170 miles per hour. In today's mass-manufactured world, it might seem strange to say that a car that has sales in the hundreds is a success. A Lamborghini, however, is a handmade work of art. At the Sant'Agata factory, the engine, transmission, and other major components are hand-built from scratch. In fact, very few parts are brought in from other manufacturers. Other new models followed in the success of the Mura, including the Espada, Urama, Islero, and the Urraco. Ferruccio Lamborghini seemed ready to finally realize a return on his substantial investment in his automobile company. In the early 1970s, however, a financial setback with his tractor business nearly ruined Lamborghini's personal fortune, and he was forced to sell his beloved car business. He still held a minority interest, but the oil crisis in 1973 convinced him to sell his remaining interest and concentrate on his winery. The new owners were Georges-Henri Rossetti, a Swiss industrialist, and René Lemer, also from Switzerland. While this transition was taking place, another car was making its public debut. Designed to replace the Mura in the Lamborghini line, the Countach was first exhibited at the 1972 Geneva Auto Show.
A worker saw the Countach roll out of one of the factory buildings and proclaimed Countach, which translated into the English language means holy shit. And that supposedly is the story, and the name Countach, which is a slang phrase, has stuck.
The Countach, the last Lamborghini that bore the personal stamp of approval by Ferruccio, created a sensation with its futuristic lines. It went into production in 1974 and was extremely popular. Auto enthusiasts who could never dream of purchasing a Countach would proudly hang a poster featuring the car on their wall. It was the type of car dreams were made of, and taking a ride in one was an unforgettable experience.
My first real ride in a Lamborghini was in the Countach, and that was an experience I'll never forget. I've ridden in many other exotic cars before that and worked on them. And after riding in the Countach, everything else seemed like it was secondary. It seemed like all the other cars were just, they were nice and they sounded good and they ran good, but nothing was like a Countach. You know, that feeling of acceleration and exhilaration go through the turns like the car did, and it was that in itself, to me, was one of the few moments in my life that I'll probably never forget.
Problems, from cash flow issues to delivery delays, still plagued Lamborghini, and by 1977 the two Swiss owners were forced to put the automobile concern up for sale. They were unable to find anyone interested in buying Lamborghini, and the Italian courts finally declared Automobili Lamborghini bankrupt. The courts appointed managers to enable the company to keep producing cars, and in 1980 Patrick Mimran came to Lamborghini. Mimran, a member of a very wealthy Swiss family, expressed an interest in acquiring the company, and he was brought in as manager. He was very successful in running the business, and in 1984 he was allowed to buy Lamborghini for around $3 million American dollars. The Countach continued to evolve, and updated versions were put on the market. In 1985, the Countach received a new 4-valve engine named the Quattro valve. This new power plant developed 455 horsepower at 7,000 RPM. This engine allowed the Countach to regain the distinction of being the fastest production automobile in the world.
I think that the Countach, when it came out, everybody that saw it that was into building exotic cars said, you know, we have to go back to the drawing board. We have to start over. And you see it in the other exotic cars as they were coming out, where they would take certain things that the Countach, their design and their aerodynamics were done, and they were integrating them into their cars.
In 1986, the popular American magazine show 60 Minutes went to Sant'Agata to do a profile of Automobili Lamborghini. The highlight of the segment had to be when test driver Valentino Balboni took CBS newsman Morley Safer for a high-speed ride on the road now known as the Balboni Highway. This television exposure only added to the popularity of Lamborghini among automobile buffs in the U.S. In 1987, for reasons still unknown, Mimran sold Lamborghini to Chrysler and his flamboyant chairman, Lee Iacocca. The supercar market was red hot. Lamborghini, however, had a completely different business model than a mass production company such as Chrysler, and Lamborghini was once again sold. The new owners were a group of companies from the Far East, and the majority owner was Megatech. Throughout this tumultuous period, Lamborghini continued to release new designs. The LM002 was a high-powered SUV that could reach speeds of 160 miles per hour. It sold very well in the oil-rich Middle East and was a real head-turner in the United States. Other cars, such as the Silhouette and the Halpa, did well. And there was one other car, referred to only as Project 132, which was also in development. By the late 1980s, it was obvious to Lamborghini management that the nearly 20-year-old Countach needed a replacement, and Project 132 became the Diablo. In many ways, the Diablo was a continuation of the traditions begun with the Countach. The first Lamborghini designed with the aid of computers, the Diablo maintained the futuristic low-slung feel of the Countach, but the lines were smoothed out, and the new car had a sensuous appeal all its own. Since the Diablo was introduced in 1990, more than 3,000 have been sold, even outselling the Countach. There have been quite a few variations on the original Diablo design, and today its popularity shows no sign of diminishing in the world of high-performance supercars. Financial problems once again gripped Lamborghini, however, and in June 1998, the German automobile concern Audi AG purchased Automobili Lamborghini from the Indonesian owners. Today, Audi seems intent on maintaining Lamborghini's stature in the rarefied world of high-performance supercars. The latest models to come out of Sant'Agata are the Murcielago and the brand new Gallardo. The Murcielago has set a number of world speed records for a stock production sports car. And the smaller Gallardo, which is affectionately referred to as the baby Lamborghini, features a 500 horsepower V10 engine and is capable of speeds close to 200 miles per hour. In the first 40 years of Lamborghini automobiles, around 10,000 cars have been built and sold. It is a tribute to Ferruccio Lamborghini that his name has stayed with the company, even though he sold his interest more than 30 years ago. His importance in the history of automobiles will remain, as long as there are performance car fans that get excited every time they see a Lamborghini on the road and watch until it disappears from sight. You know, recently there was an event held in Italy that put all of this incredible history on display. Producer and Lamborghini owner Chip Bullock was one of the select few who were invited to participate in Lamborghini's 40th anniversary celebration. Held in the town of Sant'Agata Bolognese in northern Italy, Chip's crew captured the event both on video and film. He's joining me now in the studio to help take you for a guided tour of this once-in-a-lifetime experience. So Chip, how did you get to attend the 40th anniversary celebration?
David, the Lamborghini Club of America actually organized the trip. There were about 100 of us from the U.S. We met in Venice for 3 days prior to the event and then headed off to Modena.
Wow, Modena is a beautiful city.
It really is. This is the mecca of high-performance automobiles. Lamborghini, Ferrari, and Maserati are all within 20 minutes of this city.
Wow, that's great. Now, when did this celebration take place?
The official Lamborghini event took place May 9th through May 11th, 2003.
And how many people were there?
There were about 1,100 people from around the world.
So now, where was this event?
This was a vineyard and winery near Modena. Lamborghini had set up a really nice wine and cheese tasting event for us.
Well, now we're starting to see some cars.
Yeah, Lamborghinis just started showing up from nowhere. Every few minutes a new one would arrive. You could hear the V12s coming from maybe a mile away, and the anticipation had been building for us for a while, so we were excited to see the cars pull into the vineyard.
Yeah, I'll bet it was, seeing all those Lamborghinis showing up. And look at all those different colors. Those are great.
Yeah, there were owners from all over Europe. Italy, of course. We saw plates from England, France, Germany. There was even a car that showed up from Kuwait.
Kuwait? How did that get there?
Well, David, we were trying to figure that one out as well.
It must have been a logistical nightmare. So how many cars came to the winery?
I would guess there were about 20 Lamborghinis that came to that event, and there were probably 200 people in all.
So did everyone start asking the owners about their cars?
Oh yeah, this was the first time that we got to meet some of the European owners and figure out the differences between the European cars and the American cars. For instance, Lamborghinis imported to America have restrictions that actually cut down on their engine performance.
What about language barriers? Was there any problem with that?
Not really. Believe it or not, the official language of the entire 40th anniversary event was English.
Really? So what about the wine? How was that?
The wine was outstanding. I never had a bad glass the entire trip.
Yeah, I'll bet. Now, so what's in those barrels? Is that wine or?
That is actually aging balsamic vinaigrette.
Oh, wow. That looks great. Did you have a favorite car at this event?
I fell in love with the Murcielago. It was the first time I had actually seen the car in person, and this baby blue one here was gorgeous. David, this was just a great opening event. We stayed about 2 hours at the winery, and then we headed back to the hotel to get ready for a big night at the castle.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, this man was with the Lamborghini Club of America, and I thought his daughter was just adorable.
Oh, she is. She really is. Now, what is this building? Looks like something out of King Arthur.
David, this place was unreal. This is a 600-year-old castle. What an unbelievable place to have dinner. There was a moat with a drawbridge, and that led into a covered courtyard. I guess the ceilings were about 50 feet high.
Oh, I see they had a band to entertain you. That's great.
Yeah, they had a live band playing, and they were actually really good. They played mostly jazz, but they also threw in some Sinatra.
Fly me to the moon. So how long was this event?
You know, I think we were there at the castle for about 6 hours. What a way to end our first night at Lamborghini's 40th.
Wow, Chip, look at these cars. Tell me where we are now.
This is a racetrack near Milan that Lamborghini rented for the day. It's interesting that they gave us two options this day. We could either go to Ferrara for a day of shopping, or we could go to this racetrack and see 100 cars on the track all day.
I'll bet you that was a tough decision.
Just about everybody I knew went to the track that day.
Yeah, I'll bet. Now, what are these cars they have on display here?
Lamborghini had two cars on display at the track, a black Murcielago and a yellow Gallardo. This was actually the first time I ever saw the Gallardo. Both cars were open for us to look at, to sit in, and really get a feel for these new cars.
Man, this just seems huge. The cars never seem to end.
David, I was really struck by how the European owners really love to drive their cars. I think that Americans like to look at them in the garage. You know, they treat them like museum pieces.
Yeah, I have noticed that. You know, the people that collect cars tend to collect them and put them up on shelves, you know? It's amazing.
Right, they don't get the enjoyment out of them like the Europeans do. But in Italy and all over Europe, they really enjoy driving and modifying their cars.
Modifications? You mean they actually modify the Lamborghinis over there?
Oh yeah, just like Americans like to modify older cars or the newer import cars. Some of the Europeans will take a $200,000 or $300,000 Lamborghini and modify it for better performance through engine, drivetrain, and suspension upgrades. You also see more color combinations in Europe.
Oh my gosh, look at that car. That paint job is outrageous.
That is an iridescent paint that appears to change colors as you walk around it. It's about a $20,000 paint job. Interestingly enough, that car was driven by a female.
Now, were all the cars there allowed to get out onto the track?
All of the owners were allowed to take their cars on the track. They allowed them to go out in heats of 6 to 10 cars, and from what I could tell, they were letting about 2 or 3 heats out at a time.
So what did it sound like? It must have been quite a soundtrack to hearing all those Lamborghinis running on the track.
To hear just one V12 engine is an amazing sound, but to see and hear half a dozen Lamborghini V12s go by at 150 miles an hour, it's almost indescribable.
Now, was there a difference in the sound of the classic early V12s from the newer engines?
There was, and it's not an engine sound that you get to hear very often. There aren't a lot of these old GT cars around. The older cars have a more hollow sound, whereas the newer cars have a more refined sound.
Now, what is this? This looks like a truck here.
That is a Lamborghini LM002. It's an SUV that they made in the late 80s and early 90s, and only about 300 of those were ever produced.
Man, this is amazing. You see a GT going by, and there's a Diablo. It's amazing seeing the newer cars with the older cars.
What was really interesting and what I loved about the way they set this event up is that they allowed the older cars and the newer cars to run together on the track. So you were able to see maybe a Lamborghini from the 60s or 70s running side by side with, say, a 2003 Lamborghini. It was interesting to see the differences and to also hear the differences as well.
Since they were really letting it out on the track, were there any accidents?
Well, believe it or not, there were no accidents this day, even though the drivers were really letting the cars go. We were guessing that some of these cars were hitting close to 180 miles an hour in the straights.
Oh my gosh, look at this. Is that all the cars out there all at once?
Right. Towards the end of the day, they lined up all of the cars on the track for a couple of ceremonial laps. It was great to see all of them on the track at one time. From the early GTs to the Muras, the Countachs, the Diablos, all the way up to the Murcielagos and the new Gallardo.
So, Chip, what would you say impressed you the most as you're sitting there watching the track?
The noise. Definitely the noise. To hear one go by is incredible, but to hear nearly 100 Lamborghinis go by, just incredible.
Now we're at what looks like the Lamborghini factory.
Yes, the event that evening included a full factory tour. We arrived at the factory around 7 that evening.
And how much of the factory were you allowed to see?
We were able to see a good bit of the factory. They had certain areas cordoned off, but we were able to see most of the assembly areas.
Wow, this looks great. Man, everything is so absolutely clean here.
David, everything was so clean and organized. That's what really impressed me most about it.
And it also looks huge. Is it a big facility?
Well, the factory has expanded over the years and is now over 1 million square feet. Audi has spent just over $30 million to modernize the facility where 640 people work.
What is the covering on this car for?
This car was being prepared for a road test. The coating on the car keeps the paint from being damaged from road debris.
And I understand that Lamborghinis really do test their cars on the road, is that right?
Oh yeah, that's absolutely correct. Lamborghini doesn't have a test track. Instead, all the cars are tested on the open road. In fact, there's a 2-lane highway in front of the factory where the cars are tested.
Now, you're obviously in a different room here. What's this?
Right. This room was adjacent to the factory, and after our tour, they took us into this huge room where they served us food and wine, and then they drove out both a Murcielago and a Gallardo into the room. The president of Lamborghini then spoke and introduced the cars.
Oh, man. Look at this guy. What's going on with him? He's like stuck in the 70s there with his shirt unbuttoned to his navel.
Yeah, he was in a different era than the rest of us, I believe. The band was singing 70s and 80s songs. It was pretty entertaining.
Wow, they even had a fireworks celebration.
Yeah, the evening ended with a fireworks celebration, and it was different than any I'd ever seen before in the States. The fireworks exploded much closer to the ground, almost too close.
Well, that is beautiful with the fireworks behind the sign like that. Oh, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, it was the perfect end to a perfect day.
What a phenomenal event. We're going to experience more of the 40th anniversary celebration with Chip in a little while. First, I'd like to introduce you to someone who, next to Ferruccio Lamborghini, is most closely associated with the history and success of the company. Valentino Balboni is a humble, soft-spoken man. If you ask him what his position was with Lamborghini, he'll tell you he was just a technician. In reality, he was the chief test driver on every automobile that came out of the Sant'Agata factory. If a car didn't measure up to his expectations, they went back to the drawing board. Recently, Chip was able to receive this rare interview with him in California.
The priest of my village, where I live, is born in Sant'Agata, where the company is. So one day, I was very young, I was younger, let's say, and he told me, if you want to come with me to see my parents in Sant'Agata. Okay, let's go, I said. So we went with this Fiat 500 in Sant'Agata, which is about 20 miles away from where we live, and passing the company, I said, what is this? And he said, this is Lamborghini Automobili. They make cars here. I said, why don't you stop, drop me out? I want to see those beautiful cars, you know. And so, you know, he stopped me, I stopped, and I jumped out of the car, and I started looking those beautiful Miura bodies parked in front of the company, only bodies. And they were parked outside the company because just arrived from Torino, from Bertone. So, you know, I was so astonished watching those beautiful bodies. I remember a green Miura, orange bodies, not real car, but bodies painted, you know, complete. And, you know, suddenly somebody came out from the company and they start pushing those bodies inside the company. And I don't know what happened, but I start helping this man pushing the body inside the company. And I ended up inside the company. So on the way out, you know, the man at the gate, the security told me, where have you been? Who are you? I said, well, listen, excuse me, I mean, I didn't realize that I entered the company without any permission, but I was helping this man. And he said, why don't you pick up an employee form and you fill it up? I said, well, I would like very much. So this man, this guard, gave me an employee form. I filled it up, and after 1 week, they wrote me a letter if I was able to start working for the company. When I started with Lamborghini on 68, my position was mechanic apprentice after the school. So I was helping the old mechanics, removing the engine, cleaning the parts. I cleaned so many parts of engine, Miura engine or Espada or whatever, and this was my work. I started helping old mechanics, and I was an apprentice mechanic. Well, at one point I became test driver because this is also a funny story. Because after I finished inspecting the cars, customer car normally, I was keeping driving the car around the yard, around the building, And so many times my general director and my bosses, they called me and they said, you cannot keep driving all day long after you finish to inspect a car. I said, well, I like so much to drive those cars that, this is the reason why I keep driving the car around the yard, around the building. So I said, why don't you make me learn how to test drive the car? So finally, one day, was September 5, 73. I don't know. I don't know really. It's a story that I said 1,000 times to my friends and nothing happened, but on 73, September 5, my boss called me upstairs at the office and he said, now we will try if you are able to become a test driver. We will put you on a car with a senior test driver and see how you react to the things. Well, that day when first time I went out by myself with a Miura, I was so excited that I didn't almost realize what I was doing, where I was going, and what was the purpose of me sitting on that car, I remember that beautiful noise, that beautiful sound, I remember the power of the engine, the feeling of power I had on my hands. But I tell you, I was so much afraid, and I remember, it was like to be always extremely fast and lose the control of the car. But this was not because I was practically very, very slow, and it was very confusing. The first half of an hour was very confusing, Driving those 12-cylinder, especially the first 12-cylinder, where the mechanic was still much more pure than today. Today is extremely sophisticated, reliable. Today you have everything you want, and the feeling you have from the sound of the engine, from the reaction when you push. Your feelings inside driving, feeling, touching. Is something which is difficult to explain. I was testing a brand new Countach, 5-liter, brand new car. The customer bought the car, he drove the car to Monte Carlo, Formula 1 Grand Prix, and he brought the car back for a first inspection after 1,200 kilometers. So, testing the car early morning, 2 days before my birthday, in a beautiful morning, sunny morning, a red car in the middle of nothing. This small truck pulled over, and I couldn't do anything else. And I mean, we touched, and I flew one way, and he flew the other way, and the car was rolling, and it lay down on a roof, and it caught fire, unfortunately. First, I used the fire extinguisher that I always carry with me to spray all around, because the car was burning. Every way around was burning. So I used the fire extinguisher out of the car and after, with the fire extinguisher, I broke those metal lists which separates the two glasses, door glasses. And I was able to escape from those small glass. It is for me a big honor, and I am very proud when people say, you represent Lamborghini, and it's something that makes me extremely happy and extremely proud.
So tell me why you got to go to the Schedoni leather factory.
Well, David, Schedoni makes a lot of custom leather goods with the Lamborghini logo.
Oh, really? What types of products?
They started out in the late 1800s making shoes. Today, they make one of the best lines of leather goods for travel, like suitcases and handbags.
So we're talking fairly expensive items here, yes?
Well, yeah, but the craftsmanship is incredible. You can see that everything is handmade, and they take great pride in their work, as most Italians do.
Can you buy Schedoni products here in the U.S.?
They do make products that are available in the U.S., and I understand that they're selling them through the Dillard's chain.
So this is the official Lamborghini Museum.
Yes, this is the official Automobili Lamborghini Museum.
Now, where is this museum in relation to the factory?
The museum is actually connected to the factory. The museum is the first thing that you see when you drive up.
And this museum is open to the public?
I believe that it's open by appointment only.
Wow, these cars are fabulous. And again, you see all the different colors, all the different styles. About how many cars did they have in this museum?
There were about 15 cars in this museum.
And tell us about the range of ages, because some of these look like olders.
You know, the museum really had a good cross-section of all the cars that Lamborghinis produced throughout the 40 years. You could find early GTs all the way through the first Countachs to the Diablo. It was really impressive. There were some one-off cars at this museum that you won't see anywhere else. For instance, this chopped roof Diablo with the interesting windshield and mirror, I've never seen anything like it before.
Now, what about this here? This looks like a truck we're looking at here.
Well, they had some of the cars stripped down to the frame so you could see the engineering that went into the design.
Now, was the focus of the museum just cars?
No, actually there were V12 engines, marine engines, which is another product that Lamborghini manufactures, early automobile engines. Lamborghini was involved for a short time in Formula One racing in the late 1980s. And they also supplied engines for Formula One cars until the early 90s.
These engines, they look like modern sculpture. They're amazing.
Everything was beautifully lit and displayed as if you were in an art museum. They even had a Diablo hanging on the wall, and everyone was going up and peering behind the car to see if it still had its engine and drivetrain.
Now, what are these that we're looking at here? Are these boats?
Lamborghini has a separate division dedicated just to marine engines and racing, which they do very well with.
Now, did this factory include any tractors?
No, this museum did not have any tractors, but we're going to visit a museum soon that does. This is one of the first Countachs. This is a periscope car, and the reason it was named that is because the rear view mirror is actually a periscope. And you can see here how the roofline is cut for visibility for that periscope.
I'm sorry, Chip, I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. What are we looking at here?
David, this is a museum built by Tonino Lamborghini, Ferruccio's son, to honor his father and all of his achievements.
Oh, okay. So now what else was Ferruccio involved in before automobiles?
He had quite a few other businesses, including manufacturing farm tractors, a heating and air conditioning business. He had a great deal of talent for inventing and building things.
How far away was this museum from the Lamborghini Museum?
They were about 20 minutes apart.
Oh, okay. Now, are they still making the tractors under the Lamborghini name today?
Yes, Lamborghini tractors are still manufactured and sold in Europe and in England. It's interesting that quite a few have treads instead of tires.
Oh yeah, I can see that. Man, these tractors are amazing. They look like sports cars by themselves.
Yeah, how would you like to pull up on that and tell everyone you drive a Lamborghini?
Well, I just show them the label. See, that's what I do.
Oh, this little red car here, this is the first car that Ferruccio ever built. It was actually another make of car that he modified and rebuilt himself.
Now, I'm seeing some cars in this museum that look like production Lamborghinis.
There were a few cars in this museum that looked like project cars that were being developed but just never made it to the public. This is actually the first scratch-built car that Ferruccio ever made.
Wow, it looks like a go-kart.
Right, Ferruccio made it for his son. You could really consider this the first Lamborghini.
And right past that, it looks like to be a helicopter. Is that a helicopter?
I understand that he made 6 of these helicopters, but this was not a working model.
What overall impression did this museum make on you?
This museum really gave me a sense of who Ferruccio Lamborghini was. Most everyone knows him for the cars he produced, but he had other businesses both before and after his car company, from tractors to air conditioning to helicopters, and finally to a vineyard that he ran until his death. The man was truly a diverse entrepreneur.
So now we're seeing another gathering of automobiles. Tell us what's happening here.
On Sunday morning, day 3, all of the owners gathered in front of the Lamborghini factory. There were probably around 100 cars here. This was the beginning of a tour of Italy.
It took about 3 hours, and it was a parade of cars from the Lamborghini factory to the endpoint, Ferruccio's gravesite. It was interesting seeing all of the cars at the factory with the owners. I mean, every car was built at that factory in the background. We almost witnessed a very expensive accident here. This Murcielago almost backed into the Diablo SV.
Ooh, that would have caused a lot of damage, yes?
Possibly around, say, $50,000.
Yowza.
What was really a nice touch, the entire rally was actually led by a black Murcielago and a black Gallardo from the factory.
That's great. The new guys leading the way, huh? What was it like to see all those cars going out onto the highway?
The engine noise, again, was just incredible. The road in the countryside of Italy was so beautiful, and to see all of the cars in that setting back home was amazing.
So now it looks like everybody's stopped here. Where are we now?
This is Ferruccio's memorial and gravesite.
What was the sense being there? What did that feel like?
I think everyone there that day felt a real sense of appreciation for Ferruccio Lamborghini and his life's work.
Earlier, I told you you were gonna go for a ride in one of the hottest Lamborghinis on the planet. Well, the man who's going to take us for that ride is Robert Ball, owner of Supercars. Supercars is one of the premier Lamborghini repair and restoration facilities in North America. This is not your typical garage. It's so clean you could eat off the floor. And the different Lamborghini parts scattered around almost resemble sculpture in an art gallery. It's located at Road Atlanta, one of the world's great road courses. We met up with Robert at his engine restoration center.
Ferruccio, he built the company and built the cars. They were like a part of him. They were part of, they were not just a car. You know, they were not something just to make money with. They were, it was a passion with Ferruccio. I think he innovated the exotic car market and forced the other manufacturers to meet his standards. The Italians are just artists. Everything, their artistic ways, and they've always had the beautiful lines, and I think of all of the things that the Italians build. When you fit into a Lamborghini, it fits around you like a glove, and the sound that you hear is the exhaust. And on the carbureted cars, it was the intake. You could hear the throttles opening up. Everybody that sees the cars is fascinated with them. I mean, people come in and to the service center and they see the cars and they're like, oh my God, it's a Lamborghini. You know, and can I look at it? You know, and I always tell them, yeah, you can look at it, just don't touch. And then they want to know all the history that you know, and you can only spend so much time with the people to tell them, you know, because everybody that sees the cars are fascinated with them. From all walks of life, the people that own Lamborghinis, they all share the same passion for their cars. When you get into a Lamborghini and go down the road in it, you know, you feel like you're in a different world. You are the excitement of being in the car and hearing the car run, and the acceleration. There's no other car in the world that I've ever been in that's a production manufactured car that accelerates like a Lamborghini. That feeling of being pulled back into the seat, you know, and hearing the engine behind you and just going through the turns, and it's just unbelievable. When I get behind the wheel, it's my way out. It's my out. When things get when life gets too stiff, I go do a couple laps. And I come back and the world is great. It's my release from the day-to-day pressures of life. It's an exhilarating ride. It gets your adrenaline going. When you first go out, you're kind of, well, I'll be tame, or I'm mad, or I'm going to go out and I'm going to be hard on it. And then after a couple of laps, it's kind of hard on you, and you're back to normal. You get out, your adrenaline slows down a little bit, and you're ready to get back into the swing of things with life.
This is a car that Robert's going to take out on the track. It's the Diablo SE30, which commemorated Lamborghini's 30th anniversary. Normally, the engine on the Diablo puts out slightly more than 500 horsepower, but Robert's has a bit more power. How many horses does this engine have, Robert?
840 to the rear wheels.
Wow! This is not a factory Lamborghini.
No, this car is set up for competition.
And what are some of the modifications?
There's a competition suspension, forced air induction, 14.5-to-1 compression ratio, and competition exhaust system.
Wow, I'm ready to see it run. Let's get you out to the track. All right, folks, he's going to take this out to Road Atlanta, and you're going to ride along.
unbelievably voluptuous machine, the sound, you take off, you become another person.
It's impressive. Lamborghini builds a hell of a car. And you can't tell anybody about it until they ride in one. As much as they love the way the car looks and sounds, until you ride in a Lamborghini, there's no explaining it.
You know, when we have this kind of celebration, to see all those cars, to hear those engines, to see and to hear the comment of the people all together, you know, when they all meet, you know, you hear things that they are so interesting, so beautiful things. I mean, everyone has something to express, and you know, when you hear those kind of things, you realize how people appreciate our product.
We hope you've enjoyed your look into the world of Lamborghinis. When Ferruccio Lamborghini started this company, he intended to design and build cars that would appeal to the dreamer in us all. Whether you're lucky enough to own a Lamborghini or one of the millions who admire them as a landmark of automobile design and engineering, we're glad you could join us. I'd like to raise a glass to Ferruccio Lamborghini for all that you have given us. Salute.
Salute.
He was one of those men that once you met in your life, you will never forget. A farmer, a very easy and simple farmer, grew up in a poor family, but with a lot of charisma and a lot of, he wanted to do big things on his life.
I'm standing here with some of the most exciting... All right.
Who are you?
You're going to get behind the wheel of one of the hottest Lamborghinis, not limousines. Welcome to the trailer of Dave Conaway and the Lamborghettes.
The Lamborghettes, huh? That's what we're calling it, the Lamborghettes? There's Paula. Hi, Paula.
Hi.
You look gorgeous, Paula.
Thanks.
On the open road at, say, 180 miles per hour,
That sound is a symphony of horsepower. Ross. We're gonna do the Lamborghini twist, baby. I love her hair. Look at that. Look at all the colors in her hair.
It was gorgeous.
Oh, those are clips and stuff. I don't know.
And here's Susie. Hi, Susie.
Hi there.
How are you?
Great. Thanks for having us.
Yay, she's our Lucy Liu of Charlie's Angels, I guess.
All right, girls. Let's see. Let's have you do a little shoulder, maybe a point out like that, right? And let's have you do. Let's see, something like one of these, right? And let's have you do back of the hair like that, right? Okay. Ready and pose it. Perfect. You girls are awesome. Give me 5. There we go. Yeah. The man who's going to take us for this ride is Robert Ball of Supercars. Sorry. You're going to get behind the wheel of one of the hottest Lamborghinis that is ever been on this planet, ever.
There's the Miura. Yeah, this is the excitement of television right here. It's our fearless director of photography.
Wonderful. It's beautiful here in Atlanta.
Is it?
Yes, it is.
How does it compare to Miami?
A little bit cooler, a lot less humidity, and we thought we'd bring a little more Latin flavor up here from Miami.
Very nice.
Let's face it, Lamborghinis draw crowds. I can't remember, sorry. Who would have thought that all of this would have began in the early 1960s just from a bad clutch on a Ferrari?
I like it. Now, when I say... Hold
My
it there.
bad.
Can we have one more?
My bad. I didn't. Because I went like
She
this
didn't know
and
what
I
to do with
go.
her hand.
And we heard a little oops or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Love you, babe. Don't go change it. Yesterday.
Well, that's a piece of work. Chip, I think you were doing about 25 when you passed the start-finish line. I think Robert was doing about 125. And the sound difference, I mean, Robert's like, "Arr!" and you're like, hello, excuse me, pardon me, get out of my way, get out of my way.
Supercars is one of the premier Lamborghini repair and restoration centers in North America. Damn it. Whether you're lucky enough to own a Lamborghini or just one of the millions who enjoy them as a rare institution of the interspatial reality of all concepts.
Turn back this way a little bit. There.
Very nice. Just keep going, you're falling out. I love it. You two kind of turned away from her. You two girls pointing straight out, looking up at the camera.
Yeah. Straight out like that.
No. Straight out like that. Point your guns out, but turn and look at the camera.
Stay there.
Yeah, but she's got to come down here.
Yeah, I gotta come down.
Yeah, well, we got to do it.
He was the chief test driver on every automobile that came out of the Santa Agata factory. If a car didn't, you know what I'm saying? If a car didn't measure up to his expectations, they threw it out in the back trash.
We met up with Robert in his engine restoration center.